Kia ora and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Human Podcast. My name's Amanda and today I'm talking to Lou Harvey-Zara about the temperaments. I'm blessed to have her back on the show. We've had a conversation before and it went really well, and so I was really happy to get her back on here to talk more about a subject both of us are really passionate about. Lou is the author of many amazing parenting books such as Happy Child, Happy Home, Creative Discipline, and the classic Waldorf birthday book, Through the Rainbow. Lou has courses and workshops online available for parents and teachers, and you can access them all through her website, happychildhappyhome.com. You can also follow her on Facebook and Instagram at Happy Child Happy Home for short videos and updates about her courses and new publications and such. Definitely worth signing up to her newsletter. So today we just dive right into the temperaments. Lou explains what they are, why they're important for us to understand, and how developing an understanding of our own temperaments help us better to understand the world around us, ourselves, of course, and the children that we care for. I want to preface this by the fact that we are a combination of all four temperaments, and yet we usually have one that's kind of dominant. So these tend to change over time. They sometimes do, sometimes they don't. But anyway, it's all very fluid. And so it's really important never to tell your child what temperament they are, because they really need the freedom to kind of just grow into what they're becoming without having any preconceived notions on them. We go into that, of course, more. So we first Lou introduces the concept of the temperaments, and then the bulk of the middle, Lou talks about the general characteristics of the four temperaments, how we see it presented in children, how we can relate to children with that temperament, and what you might be like as a parent or teacher with that temperament. And we kind of wind it all up near the end, and Lou gives further insights into the temperaments like nearer the end. And she, right up till pretty much the last few words, Lou's giving just really good parenting advice and good tips for working with different temperaments. So I highly recommend listening to it right till the end. And she finishes with a really cool poem that beautifully illustrates the nature of each temperament. We were a little bit glitchy, and I think looking back on it, my audio and video was a little bit delayed on Lou's end. So there are some points where we're kind of slightly talking over each other, but I've edited most of that out, and it's actually only in a few points. Technology is a blessing, but sometimes it has its own way of doing stuff. I also want to make a special mention of Lifeways in North America. They're an organisation that support teachers and parents in the Waldorf ways, much like Lou does. The anonymous producer of this podcast wanted me not to mention who they were, but wanted me to give a shout out to an organisation that they really value. So thank you, Anonymous. Check out at Lifeways North America on Instagram and see what kind of content they offer. I had a little look through and started following them. And yeah, there's some really good stuff there. So if you want to be a producer of a future podcast or show your support financially, you can go to my Buy Me a Coffee page. I think it's buymeacoffee.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. All funds go towards the cost of doing this podcast, web hosting, the internet bill, and general parenting costs. The free and just as appreciated ways to support the podcast is by following, subscribing, liking posts, sharing the posts, sharing the podcast around your networks. Every like, comment, and share is so appreciated, and I notice them. So please keep doing it. Thank you to those who do so. You can connect with me on Instagram at holistic_human_Aotearoa, or on YouTube or on Facebook with the same name, I think. Again, they'll be in the show notes. Enjoy the podcast.
Go.
Welcome back, Lou, to the Holistic Human Podcast. Nice to see you again.
And you.
Mm. I had a lot of feedback from our last discussion and I really enjoyed it. And so I was really happy to arrange another time to talk to you. And I remember in our conversation last time, we touched very briefly on temperaments.
Yes.
And we both thought, oh, we need to do a whole podcast on it.
We do.
And it's something that I get asked about a lot and you get asked about a lot. And so I'm quite happy to open the space up for you to share your thoughts and feelings and inspirations about the temperaments. So thank you for being here. Would you like to say anything before we dive on in?
No, it's just lovely to see your beautiful human face, as most of Australia is in this situation, that we will bring as much warmth to everybody listening and know that we're all in this together. We do really spread love, and yeah, it's just great to be here helping, sharing, inspiring. It's a blessing to do that. So thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you. So temperaments. Shall I just start off the bat by asking you, what's a temperament?
What is a temperament?
Yeah.
What is a temperament? Well, it isn't a personality. We all have different personalities, but the ancient Greeks first spoke about temperaments. So they're very, very old in knowledge and wisdom, and they used temperaments in their medicine. And so there are 4 temperaments, and they are how a person approaches the world, a situation, how a person kind of also views, in a sense, themselves, or inward contemplation. So we have 2 what we call extroverted temperaments. So when these temperaments go out socially, they are so filled up with energy and vibrancy, and they come back, they're all full and joy and energy. Yeah. If you've got an inward temperament, there's 2 of those, you go out socially, you enjoy it, but boy, do you have to have 2 days at home to recover and fill your tank at home. Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's like these temperaments, we can literally view the same situation differently. You have to understand that. We experience life differently. We have an internal almost process, you know, differently. Yes, through the view of our temperament. Okay, so temperaments, there are 4 of them. They have a similarity to our body type, which we'll talk about. They correlate to aspects of whether you're elements, whether you're a fire, whether you're an earth, whether you're a water, whether you're an air. In the Rudolf Steiner philosophy, we talk about the physical body and the energy body, etheric, and the astral emotional, and then the ego coming here, the leader, the I. And they also relate to those. We might weave all this in. I don't want to get too complicated first of all. But the ancient Greeks used this ancient knowledge, and I would come along with my cold and fever, and they would look at my body type, they would see my temperament in the way I interacted often, and they would mix my herbal medicine so that it balanced my temperament, whether I was water. So I often think, you know, you look at Egyptians, you look at ancient Greeks, the knowledge was more profound than today. I mean, we do have Ayurvedic medicine and things like that, but Rudolf Steiner brought up the temperaments and said, this is a really good skill to have in your classrooms. And I talk a lot on temperaments for parenting, for yourself, because to me, I'm going to go very, very profound here. I give so many workshops on so many things, and everyone wants to come to creative discipline, a lot on happy children. But to me, if you have an understanding of temperaments, you can gain more access to world harmony, to world peace, to lack of judgment, to more compassion. Like, it is something that everybody needs to know how with your temperament, and not try and be like, you know, that we're always trying to be like someone else, but we can know our gifts, and we can know what we need to keep in balance. And the greatest gift we can give our children is allowing them to grow into who they truly are. Some people have a vision of who their child's going to be. And when you get this child with an opposite temperament to you, so you're extroverted and there they are, holding on to you, and you manage to build that bridge and you manage to build that relationship. This is what we call unconditional love, truly. So for children to be seen and accepted, that's when they can flourish in their own being. And acceptance is an opening for us to truly become ourselves. So there we go. I'm passionate.
Wow. There's a whole lot in there to unpack. That's great.
I'm passionate.
Yeah, I can hear why. I love that you were mentioning that that's the key to understanding and understanding the world around us. Because if you've
human
got
beings, what is the world if it's not made up of human beings?
Yeah, and if you've got these like keys and because everybody knows that we're not, you always hear that everybody's different. We all see the world in a different way, but sometimes that's too big. That's too big to have understanding for 6 billion different ways of being. But if you can comprehend 4 different views, you can digest it. So I love it.
Yes. And there's 4 temperaments. We can go through them.
Yeah, let's do it.
And what people don't understand is that we have all 4 temperaments within us. Okay. We have them all. So we don't box someone in that they're choleric. Never ever talk to children about their temperament. They have a right to grow through their temperament with their experiences. We have all 4 temperaments within us. However, one of them will be quite predominant and really mask what we're saying with our relationships and our the way we view the world and the way we process things. And we'll have one on the side. And I'll show you this. I've got a blackboard ready for you. But we do have all 4 within us. And the word temperament stems from the word temper. And to temper means to mix. So we need all elements on this earth. We need all temperaments on this earth. If we only had one temperament, it would be terrible. And also, so we need a mix of all of them to keep the earth in balance. There is no better temperament than another. And I get very cross that our society and our world seems to view, we need children to be outgoing, a little bit sporty, and so we're actually kind of pushing this view of maybe a sanguine little choleric type child. Well, that's simply not fair, because every single temperament has a gift that they have come to bring to the planet, and every temperament has something they need to work on, and if they don't, it becomes it will work against them in their life. And Rudolf Steiner gives us indications on our temperament of what we have to keep in balance. And so I do speak a lot of this, and I really help to understand what children of different temperaments need from their parents and their environment, and just to understand that there's no better or worse, and all of them are a gift. And Rudolf Steiner, he said some wonderful things. He said, our greatest riddle here in our physical life is man or woman herself or himself. That's the biggest riddle, is us. I've had people sit through my temperament workshop and say, I have spent 3 years in marriage counseling, and you've just done more than 3 years in that hour and a half talk to me understanding my husband. I've had people say, I've now got a better relationship with my mother-in-law, my boss. This is why I'm talking about it being a human life skill that we need for ourselves and our relationships. But he said each single person is in turn an enigma for others and for him or herself because of his or her special nature and being. Find out about yourself. It's actually amazing. And in the Steiner worlds, we have this terrible judgment. I can't abide the judgment. And sometimes it's like we're meant to be this way. It's softly spoken. Well, no, I'm not like that. I'm sanguine. I'm pretty loud.
Yeah.
I was always told I talk too much at school, of course, but I talk for a living now. Supposing I'd hushed myself. That is part of my gift. But he said individuals, I'm just going to read you and we'll get on chatting because it's some wonderful things he wrote in The Mystery of the Human Temperaments, a lecture on the 19th of January 1909. He said individuals the temperaments are mixed in the most diverse ways in us because we all have all 4. But one or another always predominates in traits. Yeah, so, and that's how we are. But this is what I really love, how I can imagine him saying this. He said, what would the world be without temperaments, or only one temperament? The most tiresome place you could ever imagine. All varies, beauty and all richness of life are possible only through the temperaments in our relationships. So if you have a family of 4, 5, 2, whatever, and you have different temperaments, that is going to add beauty and richness to your life and your relationships. And when you love a temperament opposite to yours, you've truly experienced unconditional love and you've grown spiritually. So to temper means to mix. And the idea of our whole lifespan until our last breath is we temper all 4 within us. That's spiritual development. We'll talk about it at the end.
Okay, let's do it. Gosh, so good. Everyone's going to love this. I love it. I love how succinctly you put everything.
Of course, we don't have enough time.
I know. Do we want to go through what the temperaments are, or shall we start off with that, or shall we go into why it's useful for parents to know about temperaments? What are you feeling?
Well, I think it is. I think I've highlighted why it's useful.
Yeah,
we have. It's useful for our relationships, full stop, with our partners, our bosses.
Yeah,
it's useful for ourselves. You know, just shut your eyes after we finish talking. I want you all to shut your eyes, because you never do this, but I never do this. And I want you to just put yourself in front of you in your mind's eye and go, how amazing are you to yourself? How perfect are you? There's only one of you on the earth, you know, and here you are with your and celebrate when you get a feeling of what your temperament is. Celebrate that you chose that in a sense to come and experience life through that way, as well as temper. So, but also it really is, if you can understand temperaments with your children. We will talk about temperament stages of life because they have an influence. This is profound wisdom for you to connect, to understand, and to guide. And that's what parenting's all about, isn't it? Understanding, connecting, and guiding. Yeah. So it is actually more useful than creative discipline in some ways, of course.
Yeah. Well, it all feeds into it.
So that's the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're all excited. We can tell you about the temperament now, can't we?
Yeah. Everyone's all worked up.
Connect,
right, let's run through
them. I've never said those 3 words before. They just kind of float, but I like them. Connect,
what, say it
understand,
again.
Connect, and guide.
There you go. That's
understand, connect, and guide.
That's it. You heard it here first, folks.
And also because we're all aiming for more world harmony. We can get that when we understand each other.
Yeah.
Yay.
Good. Right. The 4 temperaments.
Do you want to have a little chat about what each temperament is like?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you want to say anything about how you feel about temperaments, Amanda?
How do I feel about temperaments?
Why are they important to you?
Oh, well, that's a good question, Lou. Thanks for asking.
Of course.
Well, I found it very useful as a way to observe, like you say, you kind of get an understanding for the child in front of you as a teacher when you kind of understand what their innate reactions will be to certain situations. You know, like I often found teaching behavior management was always really tricky. And your first instinct when you're teaching a child or you're parenting, especially if it's like a choleric or a very willful child, is to try and get them in a box and suppress certain things. But then when I learnt that actually temperaments, they just are what they are and they will express what they express, and there are ways of managing it, but you can't just tell an angry, choleric, wound up child just to be quiet and sit in a corner. That's harmful to them and it's harmful to everybody else. So learning that there are different ways to manage and to to nourish these children as well was really helpful.
Exactly right.
And then I think sorry, we're a bit glitchy at the moment. I don't know if it's glitchy on your end, but the other thing that I read, I think it was in that lecture, it might have been another lecture on temperaments that really struck a chord with me, and we might go into this later, but it was like, I'd never thought about it like this, how Steiner talked about our hereditary being one stream that influences us. So our ancestry and our DNA, and then we've got our spirit that reincarnates and has its own purpose. And then when those two streams connect, the force in between it is where the temperament arises from. And that was a profound moment for me, just to have a picture of where the temperament lies in us and how it's created. It's like this amazing alchemy of our ancestral DNA and our individual self purpose. So that was a really profound thought.
And you know what's so fascinating? I mean, simple language can be nature nurture too. But it's so fascinating when you're two parents and you have two children and you are yourselves and your woman is the same, and they are so different.
So different.
Twins are so different. You know, I wanted to have more and more children. Who are they going to be?
Yeah.
And a large part of that is their temperament. Yes. Yeah. Fascinating. You talked about, the cleric. We will get on to some of these, and obviously there's so much to talk about. We can only touch lightly on some things, but they're the fire temperament. So you said, you try and put them in a box. What will happen if you put fire in a box?
You burn it.
Destroy the box, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you can see, visualize that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do need other ways, and I do a long workshop on temperaments if anyone is interested. We can give details at the end, because there is so much to learn and cover, which is really useful to parenting too. But anyway, we should move on. Would you like to cover a little basis on each four? Now we're excited about learning about temperaments.
Let's do it.
And when people say, I don't know what my temperament is, I always say, work out what you're not, because it's what you're not sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you find it hard you might be quite tempered in the sense that you're tempering all four in this, so perhaps but you will find that you will find it. I've got this little board here because I was just doing this as a workshop for teachers in LA, so I've kept it because I'm about to do another video. So the reason why this is interesting to look at visually is because here are the four temperaments. They all have a color, an element, a body shape, and also whether they're connected, as we said, to physical, if they're astral. These are words you might not have heard of. We'll explain very simply. But it's important when you look at this, because all four of them we have in us. We are one predominantly, and we are one on the side. But it's very difficult to be completely opposite. So it's very difficult to be a sanguine melancholic because they're opposite. We understand?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. So the way it's drawn is because we've got one predominant and one on the side. I will do one very quickly because, we want to get on to children, adults. Shall we do that first?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yes.
Or would you like to focus just on children? What are your thoughts?
Let's do adults, but also you might want to, because there'll be some people just listening, so you might want to describe the colors as well.
Oh, you can't see my board. I'm going to name everything. I've got this beautiful wheel. I've done it in 4, and this is what is inside the wheel. Melancholic, okay? The color is blue. The element is earth, and they are related to the physical. And the body type has a small head. It goes to one side because they're thinking all the time, and a wiry body, right? Think of these people like this. They're more of an introverted temperament, yes? Yep. So you'll see by their body type, this is who they are. Now, if you were looking at this in a way, we'll do one and then we'll keep going to the other. So I'll put this down. So really, if you're going to look at this temperament, if you watch them, you watch their body type, if you watch their appearance, they will not wear colourful scarves. They will wear warm clothing, very practical. Their houses will be very practical. Do not move a pair of scissors because they've lived in that drawer for 15 years. They have the same lunch every day. Everything's practical. Yeah. They don't really get affected by whether they've got cushions and really nice pictures and everything, because they're an inward sign. They're always inward and processing. They will do their accounts for their accountant meticulously. They are so methodical. It's unbelievable. Yes. And even if they have a task that's repetitive, they will do very methodically, like cleaning a car. for 2 hours. Watch them move. They have like the weight of gravity on their shoulders. So when they're older, they really do slump too. They're really quite mannery in that sense, worry. But their mannerisms is very reserved. So they do choose a few friends, and their friends will have hobbies that they share, yes, with them. And they don't often look really kind of really, really happy. Doesn't mean they're not, but their face doesn't often show that in a sense. And they're very much in their mind. So they will have hobby, believe me. And they'll like history and they'll watch documentaries, and because they're very, very much, so they're very clever. They really like alone time, 1 or 2 friends, and that's enough for them. They will be loyal for the rest of their lives, totally, with these friends with interests. So what you can imagine this, their gifts are punctuality, and they're practical, and they're very intelligent. They've got a great memory, very committed. And what their gift is for the world is compassion, because they actually feel gravity and they're in their physical bodies and they really think deeply. They're really able to go to those places. And they do have deep compassion one-on-one. Now, you might get very confused, because a melancholic temperament type that is very secure, good family, people that love them, accept them, they'll always think their glass is half full, and a couple of friends, and everything's going really well in their life. With the immediate people they're with, they are very jolly and very humorous. But you're just not going to see them in the life and soul of the party with loads of people around them.
Yeah.
I have two family members with this temperament, and they are the most loyal, family orientated people you can have. They are such a gift for you. They are so wise if you want to ask them questions, but they have to balance their gloominess. It can overtake them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So as children, we have to say how frightening this is out of 10. Even by sharks, 10 out of 10, because we have to put the world in perspective with them, for them, you know. And we're going to step out in this situation. Give me a magic handshake, and we'll come back. Yeah. And really celebrate that they only want 1 or 2 friends, or they sit in the playground and read a book. Children really need adult conversations if they have this temperament type. I mean, I had one, and I'm so grateful to every single teacher that walked around and chatted at playtime and enjoyed their company, because you would enjoy their company. Mm. They know so many things. Yeah. One-on-one. They're like little people as children. Mm. Still gives them a childhood, and they do still have that risk aversionness. I remember when my child went on camp, he took torches. 1 small one, 1 large one, 1 for the 10, 1 in case one got lost, 1 for and a first aid kit at night. Yeah. But by 12, everyone was relying on my child to, find ways, read maps, do this, do that. It's just amazing. And they go the work they'll do. My father was the most incredible man I have ever experienced. And when no one knew who he really was, because he wouldn't tell anyone. Yeah. And it wasn't till after he passed that everyone heard stories and went, how incredible. Wow. You would never have known. But I remember when I was 55 and driving, and he was so into history and so into castles, of course, and he would come and I would drive to give a talk, and when I drove back, he would always be standing in the Airbnb porch window looking at How long had you been standing there? 20 minutes, 10 minutes, just peacefully waiting for me to see if I need to help reverse parking.
Bless.
So never don't overlook the quiet one in the corner. It's a little uncomfortable in that big social situation. Phenomenal people, but they have amazing compassion and wisdom, but they have to balance gloominess, and they have to balance the fact that they think things are rigidly right and wrong, and therefore they make big judgments even on people.
Yeah.
And they think their way's the right way. They always say no. Ask them anything, they say no. You ask them at least 3 times and it's always a yes, but no will always come out. Just keep asking them. And it's an honor when you meet them and they flourish. The humor you'll get is great. Yeah. But I once threw this child a surprise birthday party, and it was the worst thing I've ever done in his whole life for him. Because I would like a surprise birthday party. They don't want a surprise birthday party.
No.
Predictability is what they flourish on. You know, predictability, routines, rhythms, and sometimes we have to draw a line and say to them, can you tell me when you're really upset? Can we have a code word for this? Because they do moan. They're quite happy moaning.
Yeah.
So have a code word, and then you know when they're really upset. But the gifts are also enormous. And when you get to later with my adult children now, they go, how did you see that? And well, I saw it like this. We actually have a relationship where we actually know we see the world differently.
That's important.
Is that enough about melancholy to start with a little bit?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great. Nice to start with the melancholics. They sometimes get forgotten, left till the end. So
no, don't forget them, and don't be scared of them, because they don't smile very much. Sometimes they feel a bit scary, but they're not.
No.
Well, they be a bit judgy with their right and wrong, of course. But my dad said profound things to me at times, really profound things to me, and I did feel very cared for and supported by him. And but in his later life, he would grumble all the time. He'd say, don't go to the village on Mondays because it's full of old people getting their pensions. Don't go. And I'd say, Dad, how old are you? And he'd say 82. So funny. And my mum was an opposite temperament, and so she would be saying, if they were watching Australia's Got Talent or something, if they were visiting, they like the telly in England, and my mum would say, oh, the children are singing. Mickey, look at the children singing. And he'd say, I don't like children, and I don't like them when they sing. Like you could, when you see it together, it's really, really.
That's so funny.
And you just kind of have to just smile. But you know, funny. And once in a while. But the wisdom that sometimes came out. I once asked him if I was pretty when I was about 12, when you get into that threshold. And he didn't answer for a while. And then he said, you aren't actually pretty. But what you are is he said, but what you are actually is really attractive. Because of who you are. And one day you're going to meet someone who's going to find you really attractive, and that's going to be your special someone.
Oh.
And I remember thinking that was way better than being pretty. And he once said to me, he didn't like me just because I was his daughter. He liked me because I was a good person, and I was you know, good to be around. And he involved me in all of his interests: aeroplanes, history, bikes. When you're in there in a circle, you're in.
Yeah.
You know? There's not many of them, so I feel deeply honoured.
Indeed. Cool.
We can do more about children a bit later, but that was a little bit about adults.
Great. Shall we move on to an temperament? Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about melancholic temperament or anything to add?
I think you've covered it really well. You've given a good picture.
All right. So let's think parenting. Think parenting. You're going to be loyal. You're going to be present. You're going to be great at timekeeping, which children like. You're gonna resource and read everything and find out. Don't overstress, worry, think everything bad's going to happen, and be careful of your gloominess. And meet children, because young children need a bit of playfulness, joy, games, parties, creativity. So it's a bit of a stretch for you there.
Yeah.
So you just need to bring that through.
Nice.
Make it a bit of a hobby and an interest. Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's do the next one.
Next one.
Shall we
your
do
beautiful board?
Let's go opposite.
Yeah.
Let's go opposite, because then we feel it really opposite. So let's go to sanguine.
Let's do it.
Yellow, air, astral. The body, when you're looking at that, if you want to spot a person with a sanguine temperament, it's their face often looks like a heart, and they just have an even body, not wiry, not fleshy, just even, and a little heart face. And you'll be able to see their walk, because they will flip like a butterfly, because they're so outward, so social.
Yeah.
They find it hard. They can't think things through. They honestly can't think things through. A melancholic will think things through for weeks. They will never, ever go out and buy a quick purchase. They've got to review it. A sanguine can't think things through, so they have to do experience life to work it out. And they go, oh, that wasn't right, I better backpedal.
Yeah.
Very intuitive, but very hard to hold factual information. Yes, very intuitive in that sense. So their appearance will be quite different. They will wear earrings, scarves, colour. Their house will be full of cushions, pictures, photos. Yes, this all really changes their mood to have this around them, because they're a very extroverted temperament, very friendly. They'll be warm, friendly, life and soul of the party, cheerful, extrovert, social, but they can't focus for very long, and don't get offended when they're talking and then they actually talk over, or they start talking to someone else, even when you're still talking to them, because actually they've heard another conversation and they've gone, or they've thought something and they have to speak it, because they'll forget it if they don't.
Yeah.
Because they're so external in that sense. It's really wonderful. So they're very intuitive. So their gifts for the world are their kindness and joy, cheerfulness, imagination, warmth, fun. They're all their gifts. But they have to keep fickleness in balance. That's what Rudolf Steiner says. They can become a bit fickle, because they're a little bit prone to hearsay and gossip, unfortunately. And they have to become grounded. So a melancholic that doesn't get too gloomy is incredible. And a sanguine that's able to ground, like really ground, is incredible. My mum is extremely sanguine, and as a child it was hilarious. Like her purse would be in the fridge. I remember one day we went to walk to the park, and my mum said, oh, that looks like my bike. It is my bike. She'd ridden it to the doctor on Monday, forgotten she'd ridden it, and walked home. It was still there.
That's so funny.
But the life and soul of hundreds of friends, all different clubs, collects cats. So you can imagine this as a parent, of course the child's going to feel loved, because melancholic people need to feel that they connected with someone in this compassionate stage, that they've also suffered, or in a little bit of an intellectual stage of talking. A sanguine person needs to loop with love. They feel very, 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 it's very difficult for them if they don't feel loved in their being. Yeah, so a sanguine parent will be saying they love you to the moon and back every day, giving you hugs, giving you magic, giving you wonder, giving you beauty. Perfect, we don't have to all be like this, but the stage of childhood is a sanguine stage from 3 to around 8, 9. It's a sanguine stage. Children are imaginative, they're playful, they're loving, and so we need to bring some of this energy in, of course. But they have to also be grounded, the sanguine parents, and actually observe their children quietly, just watch them, without that chatter, and not everybody needs to be like them. So is that enough on sanguines for you?
Yeah, that's good.
They need to, because of the astral. the astral is where we have our emotions, okay? So the melancholic is in the physical, so they really feel their physical body, okay? Really feel it, and that's why they eat quite lightly, small meals. That's why they're wiry. My dad used to say, food is fuel. That was it. The sanguines are in the astral, which is the emotional body. So they may be very excitable, and they are. And the other side of it is anxiety, which often people don't see because they'll hide it at home. But that's the flip side of being excitable. So they do need to bring more calm in. So a sanguine that can bring calm in will be able to ground and balance and really stand in their body. They hardly even touch the ground. They don't even feel their own feet. They're almost off the ground. Yeah. So if you feel you're this, then you can really make these moments of really breathing and bringing calm in. And wisdom is through experience, because they have to experience it to work it out. They have to ask lots of people. They can't make decisions in their own head.
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
But if they trust their intuition, bang.
Yeah.
Very intuitive.
Yeah.
And very smart, but a different type of smart. I don't even know what year I got married, but I know how I felt, what everything looked like, who took the photos. It's a different type of being. Yes.
Yeah. Very much so.
Did you have anything else? Children who are sanguine, we have to give them a lot of patience. Please give them patience, because they'll flip from here to this, the other, find their other toy. Yes. And when we tell them off for being chatty or a little unfocused, it's very wounding for them. Yeah. So we have to help them. We have to help them with imaginative games, and tapping them, and the others and give them time. And it will be so magical. You'll walk around, you'll find little fairy houses, you'll find little sand pits. If you walk around and see what they've done with their play, but they do really want to feel loved. So we do have to. We'll talk about children later, but we have to give them patience. We have to chat to the melancholic ones. Chat. Not all factual, but things that are interesting. And we have to love and connect. We have to love all children, but the sanguine ones, they really, really love.
They need to hear it and see it.
And give them patience.
Yeah. Nice. Shall we move on to?
Yes. I say it every day.
Oh.
All my family members, I say, love languages.
Yeah. So important.
Love languages. There's love languages of temperaments.
That's a whole thing.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's move to where are we going?
Well, we can round it up with love language of temperament. Will we go to phlegmatic?
Let's go to phlegmatic. Yeah.
So this is green. The element is water. The body type is fleshy, and it's related to the etheric, which is the vitality, life body. Around our physical body. So these are my favorites. They never used to be, but they are now, because they're the temperament I need to balance myself. So no, don't always think, some people think a phlegmatic is a little boring because they don't want to be center of attention. But they're really, really interesting. They have fleshy bodies. Now, we're talking water. We're not talking sea. We're talking calm lake, where we see trees reflect on them. Yeah, this is what we're looking at in water. Completely reflected mirror water, because they are so internally calm, these people. So I believe their pulse and their heart rate is slower, which is why their bodies are fleshy. It has nothing to do with really overeating or whatever. They don't want to exercise that much because they're so calm. Yeah, that's true. But so their appearance is just comfortable. Their movements are slow, very slow movements, quiet, friendly. They are the absolute peacemakers of the four temperaments. You ever say anything about them, about someone else, they will always say, oh, but wait a minute. And they'll stand up for the other person and give their side. Yes.
Mm.
They don't want to be, they're not prone to gossip at all. They are friends to everybody because they don't actually offend anyone.
Yeah.
They are. They're good listeners and they're non-judgmental. They are, they can be introverted, extroverted. They feel introverted because they don't really want to be the center of attention, but they do really want to be noticed one-on-one. They really do, just not in front of everybody. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They desperately want to be noticed and seen, but one-on-one. Often you say, how's your day? Oh, not much.
Yeah.
What you do? Not much, but they're actually really, really, really interesting. They usually all have very good intellect, but it's deep because they take a long time to process things and they have to kind of go over and over and over, and then they never forget it, ever. So it's the tortoise and the hare. Absolutely. If they are too rushed, too busy, or too stressed, they will instantly get physical ailments, which is why it's the etheric. Yeah. They will get migraines, illnesses, because they need calm, they need quiet, they need their bed, they need reading, yes, to balance themselves. That calm water. Otherwise, they get a migraine. Oh, they do enjoy it. What people get confused about the phlegmatic is they are very calm. They're the most patient, homely, beautiful. But if they are really pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and taken advantage of, in a sense, and really pushed, they will be more fiery than the choleric. The anger is beautiful. It's like, it's stunning.
Yeah.
Because it's actually usually needed, because they really, really have been pushed, and it's beautiful. Yeah. It's like, so they do need to be wary of their energy body, their etheric, and that's why they need to spend periods in bed in their pajamas and reading and baths and quiet. And but if you have phlegmatic temperaments and you do get a purpose and you move towards it and you get active, then you are really powerful, because Rudolf Steiner says they have to watch stagnation. Yeah, they have to watch almost a lack of luster in the world from being so calm.
Yeah, right.
They're amazing with animals because they really, really, really go with them. I have beautiful phlegmatic, and even as a child, they never moved. They just sat on my hip for 2 years. They had bow legs by the end of it. They looked really slowly around.
What were they?
And phlegmatic as a child.
Your children. Oh, right. I see.
Yes, I had one.
Yeah.
And you notice them because they are actually so calm. But once my child was told to take the look off their face in high school, because they're calm, so they just have this kind of resting face. Just never forgotten it. How rude! It's my face.
Yeah,
because it's like sometimes a resting face. It's not an animated face,
Yeah.
But they were looking to work, and they looked at a juice bar, and they watched everyone do the whole thing in lines, and what it, how it is, where you put the thing in, take it to the whizzer, take it, and they said, no, I can't work here, it's too hectic. Worked at the dog kennels instead. But never underestimate their deep intelligence. Never underestimate. Don't forget them, because they're quiet. They were waiting for someone to discover them, to uncover them. And if you have any of these in your community, my word, what a precious friend you've got there. And if you ask them an opinion, the opinion will be amazing, because they sit and observe everything, but they're never going to tell you unless you ask them. And then go home, because they will make quilts, they'll collect teas, they'll do bonsais, they will have a hobby. They just won't tell you much about it. Peacemakers, hug them. So as a parent, you are calm, you are at home. You've got to, sometimes tidying up is a bit too much, because you have to get the emotion to do it. So you've got to watch that.
Yeah.
But you've got to make sure you can be active. All right. Particularly if you get a child who's choleric and needs a lot of activity, you have to sit there and give them challenges out in the garden and things. So, you do have to make sure you just don't end up in bed too long. or on the sofa.
Good to know.
Did you have anything to add to that? But they do love homes and they love beds.
No, I think you've got that well. It's an interesting point. I like that you mentioned that it's quite obvious to see children that have a dominant phlegmatic temperament. They're often the easiest to pick out in a way because they're so calm.
And don't call them good girls and good boys. And just because they're sitting there.
Yeah.
Then they have to grow up and all be good. And there's nothing to do with it. It's just temperament.
It's just temperament. And it's easier to teach a class of children that aren't challenging you. And so the parents are like, oh, you're so good. But
you have to notice them. I do a 3-hour workshop for teachers on temperaments, and you have to notice the phlegmatics, okay?